really well. And he had his own production company, and he was looking to partner up with a screenwriter. And he had a really cute little horror comedy. And so I started talking to him, and he asked me if I would be willing to work with him. And I said to him this. I said, how about I work on your screenplay for free, and you teach me everything you know about the business? And that's what we did. And I would go, meet up with him several times a week, and he would teach me everything about the business side. And I loved it because I was like, wow, it's one thing to be creative, but it's a whole other thing to understand how the business side works. And I felt like that was so important. And so going to New York Film Academy and having a mentor was just the best thing ever.
Now, you made some short films during the time you were at the Film Academy and after, I'm guessing?
Yes. So I did a couple of shorts while I was there. And then afterwards, when we did our final film thesis, that was a short. And none of them were horrors, actually. Actually, one of them was a little bit dark, but the other one was a comedy, like a gangster type comedy. I like all genres. I love dabbling in different genres, but so that was after the film thesis. And then after that, I injured my hand really badly. I had a terrible accident with my hand, and I kind of let my dreams take a back seat. Because I was actually between jobs at the time, and it was a bad time for that to happen when you don't have a job and insurance and stuff. So that really sucked. So I started learning real estate, and I got licensed in real estate. And the weirdest thing about that was I went on an interview with a broker, and she was so cool. And she said to me, you remind me a lot of myself when I was starting out. And this woman made so much money. She was really hungry. And she says, and that's what scares me about you. And I said, well, is that a compliment or what? And she says, well, I'm trying to save you. And I said, trying to save me? She goes, because I gave up so many of my dreams chasing, money so much that all the things that she wanted to do took a back seat. This was her plan B. To do real estate. But it quickly became her plan A, and her plan A just faded away. And she put aside having children and getting married for years, and she regretted that. So she asked me, is this what you really want to do? Do you really want to be a realtor? And I said, no, I just want to make some money, And she says, well, I don't know. I would love to hire you because I think you've got the gift of gab. And she goes, I think you could sell. She goes, but I don't want to hire you because I feel like you have a lot of dreams that you need to really live. And I said, I couldn't believe how this woman, it was like the universe speaking to me or something.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
And that was on I think on a Friday. And I said, no, well, I'll come, are you going to hire me or what? Because I really would like to work with you. And she says, yeah, you're hired. She said, come Monday. And I said, she goes, but I wouldn't feel right if I didn't tell you what I'm telling you. And I said, okay. So Saturday night, I injure my hand. Next thing you know, I'm in the hospital. I'm scheduled for surgery. I severed my tendons. It was terrible. And and I called her up on Monday and I said, I can't make it. I'm not going to be able to do this. And she chuckled a little bit and she says, okay, I'll be here if you ever change your mind. It's almost like she was happy that I turned down the job. And the reason why I'm going through this whole story is because if it wasn't for that, I would have never went back to my filmmaking. I would never gone back to my filmmaking dreams. And I started realizing after I went through being depressed and disabled and feeling sorry for myself pretty much, I woke up and I snapped out of it and I said, what do you have that you wish you could? And I realized I had the gift of time. All that time that I had working so much and going to New York Film Academy and trying to juggle so many things at once, I didn't really have time to work on a feature film, which is what I really dreamt of doing. And I said, now I have the time. So literally with two fingers, the only two fingers that worked, I wrote my screenplay and I wrote my feature. And next thing you know, a month and a half later, I was in pre-production. And everybody told me, there's no way you could do that. There's no way you're going to be able to do a feature film. You don't have any money. You don't have this. You don't have that. And I said, well, the best thing I could do is put it in motion and things will fall into place. And they did. And it was a struggle, but it did happen. And if it wasn't for that, realizing that I had this time, I would have never done that. So after all those short films in New York Film Academy, I started right away doing that feature film, and it literally took me years to complete. Years. Now,
was there a point? Did you say, you were injured, and you said, "Man, this is a." You said you just woke up and you realized it was time to get creative, but did you say to yourself, maybe, I don't know, should I even bother going back to that, or was your art always calling you back?
My art was always calling me back, specifically because I remembered that I wrote down a list of goals. And I remember I needed to build a bookcase. I was building a bookcase because I had so many books, and I wanted them, neat and organized. I need to be neat and organized when I'm working. So everything was all over the place. And I had asked my father to help me put it together. And while I was out, he kind of took it upon himself to do it. That's the kind of guy he was. He didn't want me to have to worry about it. I had an injury, and he did it. But he put it against my list of goals that I had written, and that I had tacked to the wall. So he didn't bother taking it down. So he put the bookshelf against it. And at one point, like, one of my shelves collapsed, and I had to move the bookcase. And I saw that note that I had written about, my list of goals. And I had checked off New York Film Academy. I checked off the shorts that I've done. And then what wasn't checked off was my first feature film. So I think it was really at that moment that I said, holy crap, what am I doing? I'm feeling sorry for myself. I gained 20 pounds because I was also a ballroom dancer at the time. I was very physically active. I worked out all the time. Yeah, my dancing was like a big thing of mine, but I knew I was never going to pursue that as a lifelong dream. But it was something that I, was involved with tremendously, and I loved it, the dance world. But I couldn't dance anymore because I couldn't hold my partner's hand and do those kind of things because of my injury. And I literally gained 20 pounds, and I got depressed because I never looked 20 pounds heavier, and I never not went to the gym. It was horrible. But I was feeling sorry for myself. So instead of realizing that something good could come of this, I was just trying to figure like what my next thing was going to be. And then when I saw that note, I said, yep, I hear you. I hear you loud and clear. It was like the universe trying to get me back on track because I started going into other areas to make money. And then it was almost like the universe said, you want to make movies, and you've said it, you've asked for it, and we got to mess up your hands in order to teach you that you are not on the track that you asked to be. Really? We got to put you back on track. Yeah. So that's when I looked at it. And I said, okay, I'm going. I'm doing it. So, yeah, I was always there.
That's great. That's great. All right. You decide to write a feature script, and that script is Star 69.
Yes, sir.
What was the inspiration for that?
Okay, so I'm going to tell you. All right. So going back to how when I realized that it's time for me to do the feature, I promised myself I would. It was listed on my goals. Okay, now comes the hardest part, is to try to figure out what the hell I'm going to write about. So I spent weeks trying to find a cool concept that would really speak to me. So one day I'm in the bathroom, TMI, but I'm in the bathroom and the phone is ringing, and I'm not going to get up and go get it. Obviously, I'm busy. So by the time I was finished, I went to the phone and I looked at the caller ID, and nothing popped up on the caller ID. Like, it just wasn't working. So I said, what the hell? Now I'm curious because I had to know who's calling me. So I know that the feature Star 69 was still available. And so that's what I did. So I dialed Star 69. And while I was on the phone, because I have that crazy, creepy imagination, I started to imagine that there'd be something freaky on the other end of the phone, something creepy going on, or something I hear, and boom, it hit me. It hit me, and it's stuff like that happens where I'm like, that's what I'm going to do. It's as if literally somebody threw a book at my head and said, that's your idea. I said, holy shit, yeah, I'm going to do that. Star 69. I mean, it's a cool title right off the bat. And, not writing it out, STAR, it was the, Star 69, the symbols. And the numbers. And so right away, I grabbed my notebook because I like writing my notes actually still. I don't really go right to my computer when I have an idea. I actually like pen in hand. So I start writing because I can't type as fast as my thoughts come out. Yeah. So pen is always better for me. And sometimes I can't read my handwriting, but that's okay. I can kind of figure it out. And I just started writing this ideas for it. And every day I'm sitting at my computer for like 8-9 hours and, writing. And a month and a half later, I finished Star 69.
Wow.
And it was a supernatural thriller with some horrific elements in it. And that's how that was born.
Was the first draft pretty good, or do you have to revise it a few times?
It's a funny thing because a lot of writers think that they have to do like 50 million drafts. I think that's just stupid, in my opinion, because to me, I feel like your first idea is usually the best. Now, that's not to say that there can't be improvements on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a lot of writers will go back and change and second guess themselves, change it again. And then later on, they're back to exactly where they started, except it's not as fresh or it's not as organic anymore. It's just kind of like watered down. So your first idea is usually there for a reason, especially if your gut is telling you that it's working pretty well and you feel something. So I did a lot of that. I listened to my instincts, and I wanted to kind of move away from a lot of the cliches. And I tried to do that as much as possible because I really love writing plot-driven films. And so I love writing plot. I think that's a lot easier for me than writing dialogue. I'm not really great with writing dialogue. That's not my favorite thing to do. It takes me a lot longer to think about dialogue. But plot, I really just kind of unfolds for me naturally when I'm writing. But so I don't spend too much time rewriting and revising. When I get it to a point where I feel like I really like it and I'm really happy with it, I just go with it then. I don't like to do too much of that because I feel like it's never as good as my original idea. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
When I look back at some notes and I'm like, wow, that just flows so much better. Why did I revise that 5 times? Stupid. You don't have to do that.
Did some dialogue and things change while you were shooting, once you've had people cast?
That, yes, 100%, because I like to give my actors freedom. I want my actors to really know their characters as if they are them, or as if they're good friends of them and they know them well. And I feel like if I make my actors say strictly what's in the script, it doesn't come out, it's not organic to them. And so a lot of times I say to them, I trust them. I say, I trust you, and let's try it your way. And as long as you stick to the central idea of what I'm trying to, get across, that's okay. If I don't like it, we'll change it back. And then maybe we can build on that together. And so they love that. But you can't imagine the F-bombs that I had to, cut around because they're so into it and they're just being themselves and fucking that, left and right. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, it, dumbs down your screenplay a little bit. You don't want it to dumb it down because it sounds like really, honestly, the dialogue. You can't even understand anything that's coming out of their mouths other than that. But there was too much of that going on at times. But for the most part, I really got the performances I liked by giving them a little bit of creative freedom with their dialogue. So that was worth it. I like Save the Cat. I do. I like it. It's a little formulaic for my taste, but I think it's a great start for people who have not written before. I think it's a great start. And then from there, when you learn those basic structures and stuff like that, I think that they got to let go of that a little bit because it's too formulaic for my and times have changed. And film is ever changing, and I feel like styles are so different now. I think Story by Robert McKee is still a great book to read, and there are a lot of other books. I mean, I'd be happy to write them down, or if you want to post that, books that I recommend to filmmakers, books that people haven't even probably heard of, and good business books as well. And there are books for dialogue that are really good, that they could read, but the best thing I think any screenwriter can do is to read other screenplays that have been produced, especially ones that, they really enjoy seeing a movie, that was based on the screenplay. So a movie that was made, get the screenplay for that and work on it and look at it, make notes in it, and then watch the movie while you have the screenplay right there. I mean, it's never going to be exactly the same because,
No.
by the time the director, is ready and blah, blah, blah.